it's important to understand that the source of our universe is chaotic in nature. This may sound like a radical statement to those who may not know the etymology of this word chaos or chaotic. The meaning of the word chaos was changed from its Proto-Indo-European roots, from meaning from India, from Central Asia. It was changed from its Proto-Indo-European roots sometime after it was adopted into the Greek language or imported into the Greek language. The original interpretation as the primordial emptiness or abyss changed to simply meaning disorder, right? So chaos originally meant the abyss, or was another way of describing Shiva, right? This great nothingness from which all somethingness comes out of and returns to, right? But it was changed to disorder. The change in definition represented a change or a difference in the Greek interpretation, so the Western interpretation and understanding, since the wisdom traditions of the East have a completely different way of thinking about the universe and its origins, right? So here we are with this interpretation between East and West and this great misunderstanding, right? To the Western theological mind, a vast emptiness represents a sort of purgatory or a middle ground where nothing could possibly have emerged from, right? Yet in India, and by the way, this emptiness where nothing could have emerged from, right? Doesn't that sound like the Big Bang? And yet our greatest minds here on Earth in the scientific realm, this is the prevailing theory, right? It's essentially confirming the wisdom traditions and the religions of the Indus Valley of India that had this same sentiment, had this same understanding, arrived at implicitly, however, not by the scientific method, but by internal contemplation and this sense of deep meditation and tuning into the world of observation, right? Observing the self. They came to that conclusion many thousands of years ago. Western science is now confirming it objectively in the exoteric world, in the scientific world. We have this theory, this evidence, very strong evidence that this is how the world came into being, right? So think about that. The Western mystical mind or the Western religious mind has yet to catch up to modern science and Eastern philosophy and religion. Yet in India, for example, all things that come from Shiva return to Shiva. Remember, to the contrary of the Western definition, the primordial abyss, or Shiva, as it's known, indeed is order in the truest sense. It's not chaos at all. This abyss is not some disordered mess. It's not chaos, right? It just wasn't understood. Hence, it gets this definition, right? The word changes when it reaches the Greek lexicon. So Shiva means that which is not, which is to say this concept of chaos, the vast emptiness of the cosmos. Ironically, the Western science, of course, surrounding the Big Bang Theory appears to confirm this sentiment of all things coming from Shiva and eventually returning to Shiva, right? Incidentally, the seemingly opposite word to chaos is cosmos. And cosmos is meant to convey the universe as an embodiment of order and harmony. But the funny thing is, it's already ordered. It was already understood, reinterpreted, and we're catching up with our own method, which is science. Right? So interesting to think about. Understanding, much less accepting, the chaotic nature of our reality can be quite challenging. It's not merely a concept or word definition that you can neatly feed into your mind. Even the atheist is a seeker. The atheist seeks to find the how and why of our universe through the scientific method, right? Atheists may not want to think of themselves, hardcore atheists or people like that are just all about science and debunking anything else that can't be verified, can't be measured, right, are also spiritual seekers. They want to know what all of this is, just like anybody else. They probably don't like hearing that, but they are seekers. They're spiritual seekers. It's this thinking about this concept of chaos or this abyss, this great void, this Shiva, right? That which is not. It's the reason we don't want to die. It's because we have always known ourselves to exist. We cannot imagine ourselves not existing. We can't imagine this. It's hard to wrap the human mind around the idea that all of this in the universe just exploded out of one point, one very tiny point, some primordial center somewhere just exploded and created all of this, and it's still expanding, right? It's just ridiculous to even try to contemplate, right? And so we've been born into this world. We've come out of this world as a product of this world, and we've always known ourselves to exist. So we can't really, the concept of unexisting doesn't really make sense to us, right? It's beyond us, right? So the way we humans parse reality is quite primitive in comparison to how the universe and nature functions in objective reality. Let me give you an example. Let me give you a great example of how we interpret reality versus reality, and what's really happening. And as far as we can tell, as far as science has figured out, and as far as mysticism. I spent a lot of time as a younger person reading lots of books about quantum mechanics, quantum physics, cosmology, black holes, and then later on, I started reading a lot of books about mysticism, shamanism, Eastern religion, and going, holy crap. I obviously I wasn't the one to discover these parallels. I mean, these have been noticed for a long time, 50, 60, 70 years or more. So let me give you this example of how we parse reality as humans and then how the universe actually really works. And we're trained to learn, think, and communicate in a linear fashion, which is to say we read in one direction, right? Whichever language, if you read right to left or left to right, up and down, doesn't matter. But we scan in one direction. We scan letters and words, right? Just going across, going up, down, whatever language. Interpreting, as we go, we interpret information one line at a time, right? One word, one sentence at a time. One cannot read an entire book dynamically all at once. Not possible, right? A book is designed to be, it's a linear type of information system, right? It's linear. That's how everything is for us. At least the way we convey, the way we bring in information through our consciousness, through our minds, through our conscious mind. Our unconscious does dynamically process. Each line of language or code, if you will, must be taken in line by line. That's how machine language works, right? Until quantum computing comes online, this is the best we got, and this is a product of how, this is basically a natural product of how we parse information, how we've parsed information for thousands of years, right? By reading books, listening to stories, etc. So we can only consciously focus on or think about one thing at a time. You hear about multitasking, but that's just a bunch of crap. You can really only hold your attention to one thing at a time, right? Yet unconsciously, there are an unaccountable number of processes happening within our body requiring absolutely no conscious understanding of them at all. In fact, interpreting unconscious processes through the conscious mind is merely interpretation or approximation at best, right? This unconscious process or varying levels of awareness exist in nature's ecosystems, for example, to a much higher degree. So the way we take in information is this line-by-line linear way, right? Nature, obviously, as we all know, acts in a non-linear way, essentially. It's linear in the sense that, a seed will grow into a sapling and a tree, and it'll make other seeds, right? But the relationship to one tree to another, to an animal, to a plant, to one animal to another, to the weather, to the sun, to the clouds, to all these things happening. The Earth's magnetic field, solar rays, weather. I mean, there's all of these things happening dynamically, just like in your body, right? You've got so many chemical processes, countless number of chemical processes happening in your body dynamically. Your heart beats, your blood flows, your liver processes, and there's all these things happening, right? And you're metabolizing these different substances in your body, and you're not even having to think about it, right? It all happens dynamically, and that's essentially that's how the universe operates, in this very dynamic sense. It's not really a linear way that the universe was created, right? It wasn't exactly linear. It was linear in some respects, but had to be non-linear in many other respects, right? So if your conscious mind were exposed to all of the processes around you, even if you went to, maybe just walked outside, and all of the dynamic processes of nature were seen in their full light, it would completely annihilate you. It would destroy your mind, because our minds are set to a certain frequency so that we can navigate the world, keep ourselves safe, procreate, find food, all those kind of things. The spectrum of light, for example, is so much wider than we know. I suspect the spectrum of light may actually be, if you can go beyond the instruments, the technical extensions of our senses, if we can go beyond that and go out so much further than just gamma rays and X-rays, IR light and infrared. If you can go far beyond that, you'd find the spectrum would go on and on, quite a long time. And it's all happening at once. So the world we live in is driven by this constant transaction and transformation. It does filter down. It filters down into our lives, because most of who we are really as humans is this unconscious, which is another way to say this dynamic processing. This we can't consciously account for it fully, right? Just like all of the processes of nature. So we're part of that, and that's happening in us. And so that transaction and transformation is ceaseless, and it's always happening, right? There's always movement. There's always transformation. Things coming from Shiva, returning to Shiva. Right? The young are tomorrow's irrelevance. Right? The unborn are tomorrow's relevance. And what I mean by that is this movement is constant. So there's no place really for you. You can try, but it soon turns into quite a bad situation. You can try, you can sit there and say, okay, I can just stay right here. I'm safe. Everything around me is moving, but I can stay right here. But even in that moment, in your body, there's so many processes happening that you're not aware of. That, in a sense, this standing still, this staying put, is not really happening. It's transaction and transformation is happening all the time. So the momentum of the world and the progress of the human species is driven by this constant exchange. We're building a new phone, a faster computer, we're, electric cars, we've got all this stuff, and we keep building stuff and building stuff and building stuff. And we're not satisfied with things as they are. We're reflections of this universal force of transformation and transaction. Right? That's just what we're doing, what we do, because we're the fruiting bodies of this universal cosmic force of transaction and transformation. So without even, probably most people don't realize that, obviously, but we're just doing this. And that's why we constantly, what's new? We like new things. We like surprises. We like things to continue, because that's our very nature. Right? The very fundamental essence of our being is this. So this is sort of a self-cleaning mechanism as well, right? Because it contains the creator, the destroyer, and the preserver. Because don't forget, we're not only created and destroyed, but we are here for a time. So we're preserved for a time, right? We're still ephemeral. Everything in the universe is ephemeral. Except maybe the only exception is the actual mechanism itself. But if you believe that the Big Bang happened, and there's a great likelihood it did, then that mechanism can be called into question too. So there's this creator, destroyer, and preserver, or known in India as as Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, respectively. Okay. The news of the day, for example, thrives upon the appetite of its audience for constant novelty, volatility, and transformation. People feed off of that, right? That's a very deep, fundamental force of the universe. That is Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu happening right there, right? So seeking newness in oneself, or the drive for personal growth, is essential to our happiness. It really is, right? It's not so much external accomplishment as it is this metaphysical growth, right? External accomplishment is fine, but as you know, when you get some shiny new toy, that's great, that's fun for a while, and then at some point you lose interest in it, right? But you can always surprise. You can always surprise yourself. It's you that's being surprised. It's not the actual object that makes you happy, right? It's this transformation that happens inside of you. So if you learn this, if you know this, then you no longer need the object. You just need the transformation in yourself, right? So that's what I'm saying about this seeking newness in oneself. It's an amazing feeling. Otherwise, if we're not getting, and of course, the physical object, the new phone, the new computer, whatever it is the crutch, right? It's a crutch for this it gives you that feeling, that the metaphysical feeling of newness for a time. Ooh, got this new PS5. Holy shit, this thing's awesome, But then that fades, right? But there's very simple practices you could do every day, and we'll talk about those in future videos. There's very simple practices you could do every day to keep that feeling, to keep that PS5. I got a brand new PS5. Check it out. To keep that feeling every single day, right? And you don't have to have an Amazon Prime membership to do it either. So this evolutionary quest for newness in the human, as with all things, is deeply embedded in the nature of the universe at seemingly every level, right? At least as far as I've looked into, as far as I've observed, right? Sameness is stagnation. Should this happen, the seeker ceases to be the seeker. The magi ceases to be the magi, right? Same old, same old. Nobody likes that, right? Life begins to feel heavy, like a giant stone. When observing closely, the seeker is not the same person they were 5 minutes ago. So if you really tuned in to this transformational, transactional process, that it's in your spirit, it's in everything, right? If you tune into that, then you start to realize, yeah, I'm not the same person I was just 5 minutes ago, right? I'm not this, like, if you have this image of yourself being this sameness, that's not going to help you. It's not fun. It kind of sucks, actually, right? It doesn't mean you have to, like, every 10 minutes, every hour, every day, or every week, just completely freak yourself out and do something crazy and just be totally different. And, it doesn't mean that your goal is to evolve into a 17th dimensional space philosopher alien creature. Although maybe you want that. That's cool if you want to do that. That's your thing. But my point is, it just takes a small practice. Just a little bit of something each day, right? To keep that universal transformational force, that magic. It really is this magical transformation that happens. However small, it charges you up, and you feel it quite strongly. Now, of course, the seeker never reaches the image of perfection that inhabits the human intellect. Although many believe they may see this in others, such as a prophet, such as a guru, a messiah type of character, right? We think we see this in a Buddha character, right? Spiritual growth happens in many ways and can go in many different directions. They're not just one path, right? This image here of this woman doing the tree pose in front of the ocean, right? In the what looks like the sunset. I mean, that's just iconography. That's just one way to do it. You can have your own, just like you can have your own operative theology. Once you start to discover your own divine light, then you're looking to do what works for you, right? But I'll tell you, yoga is very helpful. Listen, don't try to reinvent the wheel as well. These yogis figured some shit out. I gotta say, and this is really catching on. A lot of people obviously know this. I don't have to even say that. So spiritual growth happens in many ways, and there's no one true path for anybody, right? We're on our own individual journey, and yet the destination is always the same, which is this universal now of being, right? You're tuning in to your divine essence. You're tuning into the now, and it just feels amazing. It feels amazing. This is a Buddhist proverb, one of my favorites. If you meet the Buddha on the road, draw your sword and kill him. Someone told that to me many years ago, name was Bob, and he died in a terrible accident. He had too much to drink. He slipped, hit his head. He was gone. Very interesting guy. I hadn't known him for very long, but he was a Buddhist, and he told me that once, and I just shook my head, and I'm like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about. It was only after his death that I actually took the time to learn about what this actually means, right? And it's amazing. It's quite a statement. So what this means is, if the seeker, and rest in peace, Bob. I mean, Bob was great. What this means is that the seeker carries with them an imago, or an idol, of what attainment, enlightenment, or perfection appears to be in another person. You almost deify another person, right? You turn them into a god. And you need to reject this, because your imago, or your idol, this guru, this person you think is amazing, that's an illusion. They're just a human being. It's like meeting your favorite Hollywood movie star, right? And if you actually talk to them for 5 minutes and figure out, oh, they're a real person with problems, and they've got all kinds of shit going on in their lives, it can be kind of a letdown. The world contains many gurus and spiritual teachers, with students eagerly throwing money at them. This remains the fault of the student until such time that the student can realize there is nothing the guru can give them which they don't already have. To grow out of this stage requires the symbolic death of your master. This is why we see this appears to be a samurai or some sort of Bushido type character drawing his sword, and he's about to lop the head off of this meditating guru, right? One word of warning, though, before you meet the Buddha on the road and you draw your sword and you lop his head off and then you soccer kick it like Pele into the woods, be careful not to kill your master before first finding the master within yourself. Just like having the training wheels on the religion, right? You join this religious practice, maybe go to a Buddhist monastery or some kind of whatever appeals to you, and devote yourself and see what they have to teach you, because there's a lot of deep wisdom there. It's going to take 3 or 4 lifetimes if you do it on your own. So you need these teachings, right? Now, this statement of killing the Buddha, drawing your sword and killing him, isn't literal, right? This is just a metaphor. For if someone comes to you and says, hey, listen, yeah, I'm the Buddha, I got it figured out, I'm enlightened, pretty cool, huh? Yeah, let me tell you some stuff and how you can do your thing, and let me tell you how you can be like me, right? There's a lot of people out there like that. Let me tell you how you can just be so freaking enlightened and just so happy all the time, just like me, right? That is your cue to go, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pass on that, right? Unless, of course, you so desperately want what they have and you believe they can show it to you. You already have it. That's the point. You already have it. So if you do meet the Buddha in the road and you kill him, then that means you are on your own path. And that's amazing. That's beautiful, right? While the word guru seems to mean many things, one reference which is made several times over in the Upanishads is that the word gu represents darkness, while ru represents its destroyer. The destroyer of darkness, of course, is light, or another way to say that is this heightened awareness, right? You're bringing your awareness up so that it illuminates the darkness. So having a guru is totally fine. I'm not saying you don't. I mean, having a guru is great, fantastic. As long as you need one, just like having a religious practice. If you have one your entire life, if you find a sense of community and you go deeper into your own divine light while simultaneously being part of a religion, do it, right? Do it. As long as you're going into your own light and finding your own way. Because you can find your own way with other people while they find their own way, right? It's quite a beautiful sentiment. And so there's no real rules to this. There's no paint by the numbers here. By the way, this is an image of Guru Nanak. He is the founder of the Sikh religion of India. It's a beautiful, beautiful faith, and yeah. So here's some advice from Bruce Lee. Absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, add what is specifically your own. That pretty much sums it up as far as finding your own divine light. So really, magic is about being a witness, being a participant and a witness of your reality, tuning in, understanding the magical processes, this transformational, transactional process that's happening inside of you, inside of all things, and that you're part of it, right? And then going deeply into that. And you can do that with a community. You can do that. You can do that on your own. It's usually best to get some guidance, right? That usually helps. So this is the end of part 7. And if you have any comments or questions, please definitely love to see your comments and questions in the comments section. If you like what I'm doing, please support me by subscribing, hit that like button, and I will see you guys next week.